Hello everyone and welcome back to another stream from Oman Talks NRL SuperCoach here to wrap up round 4 of the 2025 season. Hopefully you're doing well. Someone in the comments in the last couple of streams was saying my audio is a little bit low, so I've tried to turn up on my back end. Hopefully that is all good and crystal clear and you can all hear me okay as we have a bit of a whinge about SuperCoach this week. I don't think the SuperCoach gods were totally on our side this week compared to maybe the first 3 rounds where, I think I've been a little bit fortunate. Most things have gone my way. Yeah, I think this week was a little bit of a back to reality week, wasn't it? But great to see so many of you already in the chat. Awesome to see. Guys, if you enjoy the stream, please do give it a like as well as we go through and wrap up the week ahead and also start looking at initial thoughts ahead to round 5. Can't believe we're already steaming through and we've already passed the first month of footy. So Troy Anthony says, genius Captain Payne Haas. Yeah, look, I would have taken 82 points after seeing what happened to Tommy Turbo today. Lachlan says, top centering options for cash gen and the best options in general for points. That's going to be a big topic. We'll talk about it today, but also I think on Tuesday in the weekly preview stream, given that we've got guns like Turbo falling out, we're going to have plenty of money to spare. So we want to try to prioritize, let's just get the guys who we think are going to score the most points. Peanut Gallery says, yo, Nick Mitrevsky, good to see you as always. 1166 with Haas captain. I think that's going to be a pretty good score this week. Obviously, people are going to be wondering what par is. I'm seeing some scores in the chat. 1120, 1067, 1217, 1180, 1169. 1285 is a very big score from Max S. 1058 before updates. I think you're probably going to fall into the camp of if you captain Turbo like myself. A lot of the other captain options didn't go huge, so it's not like you massively lost out there. Obviously, it's not ideal, but I imagine a lot of those people who captain Turbo are going to be falling into that kind of 1050 to 1100. I think if you didn't captain Turbo and went maybe like a Payne Haas instead, a few people I think went Pappenhausen, then you're probably looking a bit more at maybe the 1100s to 1150s. I think I think in my opinion, if you're over 1100, I think you've had a good week. If you're pushing past 1150 and creeping up to 1200, I think you're in for a very good week and you should probably see some green arrows. Looking at some of the leagues around me, the scores do vary a little bit between the kind of 1050 to 1200. I'd say that's the range. So 1072, I'd probably say not a terrible week. I think I kept up with most of the pack of those who at least captain Turbo. At my ranking, which was about 2,500, I'm probably going to drop, I suspect, but it's okay. Ranks don't matter so much at this point in the year when things are, it's so early on and points are compressed. But good to see so many of you already. Keep your scores coming in. Let me know your questions as well. 1180 from Lawrence isn't too bad for sure. 1067 saved by Seyfarth. Yeah, thank God for Seyfarth and Terrell May, who just bossed it in that last game for me. 97 and 84 points for each of them to get me to a respectable score. I didn't play Metcalf in the end. I did play Iongi. Look, only 26 points difference in the end, so it's not a humongous swing. I was always on Iongi coming into the week. So I just decided when the weather wasn't looking too bad in Brookvale, I just thought, let me just take Iongi. I know Metcalf's goal kicking, but Tigers have been pretty good defensively. So I thought Iongi at fullback, he didn't have the greatest of games. He had a couple of errors and Eels' attack just looked so clunky. We'll talk about that. But yeah, just didn't look like any hope of scoring any points in that game. 1285 from, as Max S said before, big week. I think if you had the likes of Preston and Shibasaki, then yeah, maybe you are pushing into that kind of 1150 plus 1200 territory. 1130 with Turbo's captain from Roger Duckling. I think that's pretty solid. 1155 Captain Turbo says Dean. Yeah, look, I think those are actually pretty good scores considering you had Captain Turbo. One thing also I should clarify, because I think I might have maybe confused people and I was incorrect. So what I thought would happen is that with the flex, if you had a player who was the lowest scoring player as their base score, so say in Turbo's case, 23 points, I thought that score would drop out of your 17 and then you wouldn't get any captain score, but it's actually the doubled score that is what gets taken out. So if Turbo had scored 10 points and so his captain score was 20, if that was lower than everyone else in your squad, then that score would drop out and you wouldn't get your vice captain points. So in the end for me, Turbo did count. I thought based on his base score, he would drop out for me because no one else in my team scored less than 23. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have one of those weeks where I don't have my captain score. But luckily, a couple of people clarified the rules for me. So I think Iongi in the end actually dropped out for me. because I had Gutherson in my flex. And speaking of Gutherson, bit of swings and roundabouts in the afternoon today where, emotions were riding high. I saw 48 points and then I was like, okay, updates to 31. And I'm like, hang on, where's this try assist gone? And I'm not normally someone who harps on too much about the scoring system and whatnot, but I thought that was a dead set try assist. All the things about creating extra numbers in the sweep and things like that, I thought Gutho was due for it. He didn't get it, and I was like, this is mad. Then he gets it back, like literally an hour and a half later. I think they probably saw enough social media outcry or something. But yeah, so in the end, for me, 10.72. Skelton was a late out, but I was able to plan for that, so that was okay. Centers were disappointing, so in the end, my trades, you'll notice looking at my fullbacks, there's a certain Mr. Ponga, Kalen Ponga, who's missing. So this is one of the situations where I think I have probably burnt a trade. I went Ponga to Gutherson. I went RTS to Tui Pelotu, and then I went Kobe Hetherington to Matty Nicholson. Matty Nicholson was okay with 45. Kobe Hetherington, I think, ended up on like 22 points. I think he only played 26 minutes. So I think long term, I think I'm happy that I've gotten rid of Kobe Hetherington. I think Nicholson, while he gets 80 minutes, is going to be a better play each week. But look, so I used another boost. All of those trades left me with 300k in the bank because I thought that would give me the flexibility to go maybe like a gun halfback or maybe Metcalf, who's now on the bye, to Jaden Campbell. Now, in hindsight, probably didn't need to quite be so aggressive in the cash generation because Turbo is going to be a sell now, I think, based on his injury prognosis. So that'll be interesting what we decide to do with Turbo, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions about that as well. Initial thought was, back to a fullback will be the best play. Get like a Kalen Ponga back if you sold him. Get like a Latrell. You could maybe chance it with Latrell if he's back round 5. You can go get Pappenhausen because if Pappenhausen's goal kicking again next week, the way that it sounded, it was only going to be a 1 week thing where he wasn't kicking. Going back to Pappy, who scored okay this week, might also be a play. Or I think a lot of people will just choose like a Jaden Campbell and then leave that fullback decision for a week because Ponga comes back to the Bulldogs, who obviously very good defensive side. So, and then Ponga comes back in round 6 to the West Tigers. So a couple of different strategies. I think you're going to go with that. I think Gutherson, I'm happy with the purchase. I think he looked pretty good. It was obviously a very wet affair, so not too many points scored in the end. But with the Eels, who looked pretty lackluster today, and then the Titans, look, honestly, I love buying into narratives when it comes to, I love the heart picks, picking the guys who I think you fancy, if you've got a bit of a gut feel about them. Now, I was always never against one of Pappy or Gutherson. It was a very close decision. Pappy's not goal kicking is what made me lean towards Gutherson in the end. Plus also that Parramatta matchup, I just love buying into the narrative of like coming up against his ex-club. He'll want to put a big performance. So that's why I went and got Gutherson in the end. And look, obviously this week will stagnate his cash growth a little bit, but 2 good matchups to come. So happy enough with that. But yeah, probably going to see red arrows in my team this week. 11.91 all out with the captain on Haas from Luke Arcuri. That's a pretty good score. Is Iongi a trade out? Yeah, we'll talk about Iongi. Someone's actually asked me what was my reasoning for reserving Iongi at 4 Pines over Metcalf. Honestly, I just thought it's again, weird thinking, probably not the best logic I'd apply. But, all week, the narrative is always that, Manly are going to smash the Eels. The Eels have been so bad. Manly at home, they're just going to absolutely rout them. But then I think in the opening rounds, teams get desperate. Like the Eels haven't won a match yet, so they're desperate for a win. They can just come out and put in a performance, and all of a sudden, people don't expect it. And I just thought with Iongi, like, he scored in his 2 games where he's gotten like 1 attacking stat. He's gone like 69, 57, and his base last week was 37. So I thought the Eels might be up for that match. I thought Iongi, if I can get 1 attacking stat from him, he'll probably get 50 to 60 points. And I thought I'll take that because as you can see, Metcalf scored a try and goal kicked, but he's got such low base. So he scored 55. So I was kind of looking at it as I thought the Eels might get up for that game. And, I like fullbacks, even though obviously Metcalf's goal kicking, but Iongi generally has pretty good base. He scored 29 points. He had a few errors in there. So, pretty much got his base stats, but no attacking stats in the end. At the very, very end, as Matthew Sherwood says, he had a forward pass to Sean Russell at the very end of the game. I won't say I was jumping out of my seat, but hands may have been in the air. And then there was rule forward pass. And I thought, oh man, because that's the 1 attacking stat I was hoping for. If you've got that try assist, line break assist, we're looking at an extra 20 points. We're looking at 49. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling vindicated for my decision. But is what it is. He passed it forward. It wasn't a good performance from the Eels, just in attack. Defensively, a little bit more resolute as well. But I also think Manly were a little bit hampered with that whole Turbo situation and him. He heard a pop is what happened in the game, and so he looked so cooked though during the game. And apparently there was an issue yesterday with his knee, but they thought it was minor. We'll strap it up and should be fine. Kind of wish we got that news, because then I probably wouldn't have captained Turbo. I know it's easy to say in hindsight. If I had honestly known that Turbo had that issue coming into today, I probably would have captained Terrell May just to take the solid points, and he ended up scoring 97, which is super good. And I mean, he just played like 80 minutes, which is just ridiculous. But let's get through the games now. We'll take some questions as well, and as always, we'll try to keep it flexible. We don't necessarily will go through all the games in order. We'll just kind of bounce around based on your questions. Let's start with Manly, since we're already talking about that. And obviously, one of the biggest topics coming into this week is going to be what to do with Turbo and, who do you sell to? So, Nariak, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, he's asking, does Turbo have to go? Like, NRL Physio put a tweet out saying initial prognosis on an MCL was 2 to 8 weeks. So pretty widespread in terms of how much time he might be out for. Given Turbo is so important to Manly and just his injury history, they're going to obviously, you would assume, be very extra cautious with him. I just think, even if it's a minimum 2 weeks, he's 875k. He's going to be projecting to go down about 66k, is what Jay Schubert has got him down for. And let me link his account again in the chat, because it's perfect for the Sunday stream, just to be able to go through projected break-evens, what players might go down or up in pricing. So he'll go down to like 800k still. It's just too much money and too valuable of a position, and I think they're going to be cautious with him. I can easily see that being more than 2 weeks out. So I think, yes, Turbo for me will be an easy sell. I think more difficult will be the replacement. As I said before, you can go Pappy if he's got the goal kicking back. Just listen to that 167 podcast, and apparently that's where he'll give you all the news that you need for Supercoach relevant stuff. You can go Latrell as a bit of a pod play. Teddy still looked pretty good for the Roosters despite the loss. You can go maybe Gutherson against Parramatta if you didn't go on Gutherson this week, because Jay Schubert's got Gutherson down for going up in price about 78k. So Gutherson at 675 is only going to still be about 750, 760. You can still make a little bit of money going Turbo to Gutherson. I think 750k, yes, it's a bit steep for Gutho, but it's not necessarily a price I'd be like, oh, that's crazy. Pappy's originally projecting to go up 71k. He downdated though, so I suspect his price change is more likely to be 50, 60k. So he's still going to be at a really good price at 670k. So I think Pappy, if confirmed to have goal kicking, is a good option. I think that you can go for. Or you can go for like Jaden Campbell, just if you purely want someone to score the good points, because Titans have got a pretty good run coming up. And you can defer that fullback decision another week if you're not 100% sure. Because then you can go round 6. You can say, I've gotten 1 week of Latrell, looks good. He's the one who I want. Or you go back to Ponga, who's got the Tigers and Sharks at home from round 6. You can play it that way as well. But my initial thought was Pappenhausen. Actually, I lie. My very, very initial thought was Ponga. But then looking at that, he had Bulldogs round 5. I thought maybe I can wait a week with KP. But yeah, I think Turbo will have to go. But yeah, that was obviously the massive talking point out of the Manly Parramatta game. Lehigh Hopewadi could be a little bit of a pod play. If we get a bit more confirmed news that Turbo's out for like a good amount of time, let's say 4 or 5 weeks, Hopewadi available at centre could be a bit of a sneaky pickup. So he scored, 87 points. So with a break even of 79, he's not going to change in price all that much. 575k. If you're looking at making some upgrades in centres, people are moving off the likes of maybe Jesse Arthurs. That's going to be another big talking point this week, is Thomas Jenkins. If he gets named again, which looks likely, people are going to be wondering who's the centre they need to sell. If you can manufacture things to get Lehigh Hopewadi, the draw's a little bit difficult. That's probably the only thing with Manly guys now, is that you've kind of missed, I think, a lot of the good run. You're going to be running into Melbourne Sharks next to, then it's the Dragons at home, Penrith, although to be fair, Penrith might not be the worst matchup in terms of scoring points. Then you've got Sharks again, then Cowboys, Para. Long term, not a bad run. Obviously by then, Turbo could be back. Lehigh Hopewadi has shown to be pretty good in the past when playing at fullback, and again, even today, scored 87 points. He did score one of his tries though, on the wing. Garrick obviously pretty solid with 64 points, and Amoli Olukwatu 62. But it's a bit of a struggle with Manly now, I think, with Turbo out. Who are the options that you need to be nailing in? Yeah, there's also a buy in there, that's right. So thanks for mentioning that, Mitchell. Let me quickly find when that is. Yeah, they've got a buy in round 9. So really, you've got Melbourne Sharks, Dragons, Penrith buy, Sharks again. The run is not great. So Leah Helpwhitey could be a bit of a pod, but maybe not my preferred option. I think I'd probably prefer a team with a better run than maybe targeting him. And we know that Manly without Turbo just in general aren't that good. Or they're just not as good of a team, obviously. Otherwise, there's not really many more talking points, to be honest, out of Manly. I know a few people had Cherry Evans as a bit of a pod. Obviously, a huge week for him in terms of all the headlines that he created this week. But I think with that really tough run, you're probably not looking at too many Manly players. I think Garrick, you're probably going to have too many other bigger issues, I think, than selling Garrick in advance of a good run, because they still have a few... selling Garrick ahead of a bad run of games. But Garrick's got a decent work rate, he's goal kicking still. I think I'm probably just going to hold him for the time being and maybe reassess if we get closer to that buy. But haven't got any immediate concerns, I think, to sell Garrick. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Mike's gone quiet. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, my bad. 1 second. Let me know if... is that any better? Sorry. Mic seems lowered, yeah. Volume is low. Okay, let me try to fix that. Sorry, guys. Let me... just looking at it on the screen here. 1 second. How's that? Ooh, too loud? Let me know about this, guys. Sorry, I'm scrolling on my audio adapter and looking at the audio at the same time. Let me know if that's gotten better. Sorry, guys. I'll read out some comments in the meantime. We're looking at how's this man gotten more handsome? Married life must be agreeing with you, Aman. Thank you, Benny. I appreciate that. Is it me? Yeah, okay. Then there's a few comments about the microphone. Alex Palmer's gifted 10 Aman Talks memberships. Nice. Sounds good. Okay, cool. Yes. Sounds like you're in the shower. I can assure you I'm not in the shower. And apologies. Sorry, Nick, you're saying too loud. Yeah, sorry. I think what happened was I turned up the thing, honestly, to max. And then I was like, oh, okay. I think that's absolutely cooked the audio. So I started dialing it back a little bit. I'll stand a bit further back from the microphone as well, just to not create too much feedback issue. A little bit of static, but better. Okay, cool. Thanks. Apologies for that, guys. Just let me know if there's any more issues, and I'll tidy that up for sure. But yeah, sorry for the accidental loud bit of sound if you got that before while I was adjusting the volume. But yeah, I think that's kind of everything on the Manly side of things. With Parramatta, so you're not looking really at too many of your options. I guess Lomax a bit of a quiet. He didn't have a great game. 48 points. Hopgood 52. I think Hopgood's minutes were a little bit down in this game as well, which is a bit strange because, you normally expect Hopgood to be playing pretty big minutes. But I remember the first half he went off for like a pretty long amount of time. Yeah, 59 minutes for Hopgood. It's not probably the minutes that you'd be wanting to see. So, yeah, not great. Dill Brown a bit quiet, only 56. Thoughts on Dill Brown? I mean, I don't own him at the moment. I think, like, the next few games aren't terrible for Parramatta. What have you got? You've got Dragons, Raiders, which is not great, I guess. And then it's West Tigers and then a bye. So, yeah, not fantastic. I think if you own Dillbags, like, I think he's projected to go down pretty considerable amount. I think he's going down about 36K with a break-even of 67. So he's going to be in the high 500Ks. I think he's one of those ones where if I owned, I'm not buying, but I'm also not selling. I think he's kind of just like a hold, and maybe because you've kind of copped a few price changes. Next few games aren't too bad. When Moses comes back, it's going to be good for him. I think you can kind of hold, and maybe he's a bit of a pod, and he'll be good through the origin period just because he's got, he's a Kiwi, for example. Dillbag surely a hold for origin period when Moses comes back. That's what Sayar is saying. Yep. Brown close to being released from Para. Yeah, obviously the whole thing around him with the contract with Newcastle, I think, seems to be playing on his mind just a bit as well. So that's probably not helping things either. But question from the chat earlier was, is Iongi a sell? So I think Iongi, just with the way that Parramatta are playing, and that they're not scoring a bucket load of points, so him getting those really big kind of 80, 90, 100-point scores to kind of kickstart a fresh bucket of cash growth, I don't think we're going to quite see that in the next few weeks, especially with Moses out. I don't think he's your biggest problem, probably. But if you want to go for the three-gun fullbacks, if you want to go KP, Gutho, maybe a Pappy, maybe a Latrell, I think it's totally reasonable to sell. And if you've got the money freed up now by selling Turbo, I think it's completely fine to sell Iongi. Similar to what I was kind of saying earlier in the week, I don't think he's a must-sell, but I think he's completely fine to upgrade because you might be getting to a point now where you're like, okay, I'm not really making the money that I wanted from him. For example, Jay Schubert has him down for making 15K with a 12 break even. So it's just going to be kind of slow and steady with him. He just needs one big score and he'll make a lot of money. But I guess it's a question of how long do you want to wait for that. He does have a buy coming up in the next, I think, 4 weeks. So that will hinder his cash at some point. But yeah, I think for me, I'll see what I do with my team this week. He'll probably stay for me at the moment because I've already used 2 boosts. Not sure if I'll use a third boost in a row, but initial trade thoughts will be Turbo out to someone and then probably getting Jenkins in just because he looks like he's going to have an absolutely massive negative break even. And I think he'll get named for Penrith next week as well. And he looked really good. He has really good stats from this week. So that's 2 trades probably already locked in for me. Don't know if I'll be using a boost to upgrade Iongi to another gun fullback. I'll probably give it a week and then maybe I reassess. And then maybe in round 6, that may be when I do upgrade Iongi. That's currently my thoughts on him. Nick saying, anyone else thought that Tommy might lose his try assist? I don't know. I can't pick the try assist and where they should go. I think he'll keep that one. Generally, they would award that to the fullbacks because they create the extra number in the line. Even though Garrick did a lot of work for it, I think Turbo will keep it. I think Turbo is more likely to keep that one than not. I mean, if he loses it, then yeah, we might have a situation where he does drop out of our score. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen. I'm going to stick with the next game, actually, just while we get some other questions coming in. So Tigers and the Warriors, I could only really half watch this game, just had a few family members over and stuff, so I was only able to watch it bits and pieces. I think from your Tigers side of things, the very relevant players, of course, is Terrell May, absolute machine, played the full 80 minutes, 97 points. I mean, this guy is just ridiculous. I think it's a good lesson maybe in that, and probably one I need to take myself. Granted, probably it's very much hindsight, but in these wet weather weeks where you're a little bit concerned about the upside of attacking players, nothing wrong with locking in a very safe front row forward like a Payne Haas, Terrell May, even like a Tino, for example. They're just going to give you kind of 70 plus points most weeks. And I think you'll take that most weeks as well. So yeah, Terrell May for me, I think safe captain option and probably one I maybe should have considered. But to be honest, I looked at the weather and it was looking in the pre-match coverage. It was looking pretty good at Manly. And I thought, look, sunny conditions, I'll back in Turbo here because he's obviously got that upside. So it's a little bit of a hindsight take, but good lesson for future where nothing wrong, I think, with locking in these really... We've got just amazing front row forward options. Like Adam Fanul-Blake this week went out and scored 80 plus as well. Alex Seyfarth, thank God I've held on to him and didn't upgrade him because he's actually been so good. Apologies, Nick. You said you sold Seyfarth for Gilbert after round 1. Luke is on the other side of the coin where he says, Seyfarth, so glad that I held. Yeah, he's been a good hold. Obviously, I haven't actually seen the try assist that he got, but otherwise good underlying stats here. Like we're looking at 47, and we're just going to quickly calculate his base power. 47 plus 13, that's 60 points. Plus he's got an extra 6 points in held up in goal. You're looking at 60 points base power. That's kind of what he was putting out when he was playing 80 minutes last year. So very happy, I think, with the hold. He's obviously got a little bit of attacking upside this week, and also last week he scored that line break try. So yeah, Seyfarth has been a good hold. I'm happy that I held him. Stafford Toa actually pretty solid with 63. Not a heavily spoken about, I guess, cash cow this week, but he will go up in price a little bit this week. Lockie Galvin, pretty solid, 54. Obviously, the news for this game was that pre-match Adam Doueihi was a very, very late out. So that would have been unfortunate for people who maybe didn't have that many options left in their team to cover Adam Doueihi. I mean, DB95 saying he traded Seyfarth to Haas in round 2. Look, I think you're happy with that move. If Seyfarth was your ticket to a massive gun like a Payne Haas. But yeah, very happy with Seyfarth and the hold. I think he'll be him, Tino and Corey Horsburgh at the moment. I think are in my not Corey Horsburgh, Nafahu White. What a legend. We'll speak about him a bit later. They're kind of locking down my second row forward at the moment. And there's no real second row forward gun who's going absolutely bonkers at the moment. Eli Katoa, Angus Crichton probably look like the two maybe at the moment to be targeting. But it just doesn't seem that they're going to that next level where you're like absolute must-haves. So for now, Seyfarth, very happy with him and just rolling him out every week. A few poor scores here, like Skelton was out, so Tape came into his place, only 32 points. Truva, I know a couple of people may have gone for him as a bit of a pod. No attacking stats in this one, so only the 34 points from him. On the Warriors side of things, so Wade Egan with another good score actually, 90 points. I'm pretty sure he scored decent. Yeah, he scored 110 early in the season. So he's gone 48, 110, 63, and now 90. So it's actually been a good point of difference hooker for anyone who did consider him. I've always been a little bit concerned just with he always seemed to get niggles or head knocks and stuff. So, and I went with Connor Watson in the end, who's been fine, obviously. Didn't play this week. Mike's getting quiet again. It's all right, but it dropped a bit. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what's happening. Maybe it's there might be a cable that's a little bit wonky that maybe is just kind of breaking up a little bit. But that's right. That also could be me taking a step back. So I'll try not to move my head around too much. A lot of people are asking what are the options for Metcalf. So that's what Schlumbus is asking. Someone else earlier I think was also asking, is Metcalf a trade out, and also who is he a trade out for? To be honest, I think... Look, I didn't watch this game in full, so I'll probably need to go back and watch highlights. 55 points is solid. Break even of 2. So Jay Schubert has him projected to make... Where is he? Metcalf. Making about 44k with a break even of 78. So if he makes 44k, he hasn't, really made the money that we would have hoped for. He's got the bye in round 5. Then he comes back to the Storm and then the Broncos, followed by the Knights, Cowboys, Dragons, Dolphins. So actually round 8 to round 11 is a pretty good run for Metcalf. But yes, he's not been probably as crash hot, I think is what most people wanted. I don't think he's an urgent sell. But if you're running a Metcalf-Dewey combination and you're looking to turn him into a gun 5'8", like a Jaden Campbell or Munster, I can understand it. I've already got Munster, so I'm not maybe in as much of a rush to sell Metcalf. I think if you are in the camp of selling, Jaden Campbell I think is who I'd be suggesting. He outscored Munster by only a little bit this week, but the Titans run really does open up I think from next week onwards. He's goal kicking, he got some attacking stats which did bump up his score, but I think it shows that he's got a pretty good floor just with the goal kicking. Plus he's got that ceiling. We saw that last week actually. So yeah, Campbell's probably the guy who I'd be going for at 5'8", and I think you're going to probably see him in the top 10 most traded in this week. That would be my feeling. Apart from that, Mitch Barnett, a little bit disappointing, only with the 52 points. Ali Leotower, 42 points, so a little bit of a down game for him. I think Dimitrik Valmoga, however you pronounce that, apologies. He saw some extra minutes now that Dylan Walker is moved on to the Eels. So just having a quick look at the minutes here for the Warriors forwards. So Fisher Harris pretty much bang on his 50 minutes. Aaron Clark played 49 minutes, which is solid, and he ended up scoring, I think, like 55 points. So he's actually been pretty reasonable for, I think, anyone who started with him. Valmoga played 32 minutes, which is a bit better than the 16, 17 minutes he was playing. So I've held him this whole time, just didn't really worry about him as a playing option. Coming out with 35 points, I'll take it. It's better than the 15, 20 points he was dishing up at some point. Someone's asking, is Adam Doohy a sell? So quickly looking at the Tigers run, I think the draw starts toughening up a little bit. They had a really good start to the year in terms of matchups. It's still pretty good to be honest. We're looking at Broncos away, but I think Broncos can still league points on their day. Then it's Newcastle, then Parramatta. The next 3 are not bad. Then it's Sharks, Dragons, before it gets Melbourne, Rabbitohs, Cowboys, Penrith. Honestly, the run overall is not that terrible. And I think Dewey, just as a goal-kicking option who's got 5'8", centering dual, is not a terrible pick to have. Obviously, see what the news is going to be on him, if it's going to be looking like a long-term injury, or even if he's out 2 to 3 weeks. If he was getting to 2 to 3 weeks, I'd probably say, yeah, you can move him on, use cash from selling Turbo potentially to get up to a Jaden Campbell. Otherwise, I think he's completely reasonable to hold. I don't think he's urgent, especially when the Tigers are looking good, and he's been the goal kicker as well. All right, I appreciate we've already been here for 30 minutes, and I've only gone through 2 games. Gonna have to fly through these games a bit faster. Tom Lung is asking, is Tom Starling a hold? His B is about mid-50s. Let's quickly touch on this game, which, again, apologies, I haven't been able to watch this one, so I'm going to have to go back and watch highlights. So I'm only going to be working off, I guess, stats in this particular part of the analysis. Even though the Cowboys got their first win of the year, I don't know how many people are going to be looking at Cowboys players, despite some good scores from Tom Dearden and Scott Drinkwater, because they've got Penrith next week, which, look, Penrith have been conceding a lot of points, but with Cleary coming back next week, I think that's going to be a very different outfit. So, not sure I love that. Then it's the Rabbitohs, and then it's a bye before Titans, Warriors, Panthers again in round 10. I think I'm not really looking too much at Cowboys players. Jackson Purdue actually updated a little bit to 51 points, so he actually was pretty solid in this game. No major attacking stats apart from one line break. So we're looking at 41 points in base attack. So that's pretty solid. People are probably going to be thinking who's the one to sell for Jenkins next week. And I think the candidates are probably going to be, Jesse Arthurs, Purdue, Toya, Tamale. Those are probably the guys I think people might be looking to sell, and we'll probably rank the ones that we think I'd lean to selling first. I haven't quite thought this through myself. If I had to guess, probably one of Purdue or Toya would be where I'd be leaning. I know some people are looking at selling Jesse Arthurs, but they've still got a few decent games as well. But yeah, come back to me on that one on Tuesday when I've probably thought about it a little bit more. But yeah, otherwise from the Cowboys, obviously a better performance, but I'm not really still looking at them that much from a Supercoach point of view. For the Raiders, obviously quite relevant. Tamale with a good score of 78, so I know a lot of people would have jumped on him last week, and he had a bit of a down game. This should be restarting some cash gen. So Jay Schubert had him down for a 50k price rise and a 15 break even. So he's going to continue to make a bit of money on top of what he's already made. So you'd be pretty happy with that. He's going to crack that kind of 120k price cash generation, I should say. So I think that's pretty good for a cheapie. Tarpany obviously scored a try, so 92 points in addition to his base stats, so that's pretty solid. Corey Horsburgh to 65, again, just rock solid. Don't see any reason to be moving on. Corey, dual front row, second row forward. I think you lock him in. Question is going to be, I think, on Matty Nicholson maybe and Tom Starling. So Starling did downgrade just a little bit to 44 points, and he played 56 minutes. So since pretty much most people have purchased him, his minutes have reduced. He was 68, 70 minutes the first 2 weeks, and I think he's gone mid-50s in the next 2 weeks. So I'm a little bit concerned about that on Paddy's gotten a few more minutes. There was always a risk with that, but I thought Raiders playing, it's probably coincided maybe a little bit that him playing lower minutes and the Raiders have lost the last 2 games. So Jay Schubert has got Tom Starling down for a 52 break even and about 57 extra K in price gen. So he's already made 90k. So he's going to make another 60k, call it, or maybe 50k. So he's going to make 140k in total. Not amazing. I would have hoped for more like 200, 250, I think, out of Tom Starling. He's got the Sharks next week, but it is at home. Then it's Parramatta, and then the Titans and Dolphins. So there's actually a few good games still coming up for Starling where he can get some attacking stats. I think because his break-even is 52, I don't think he's an urgent sell. The concern is probably going to be what happens if he gets lower minutes. Let's say he scores another 40 and his break-even becomes 80, 90, but then he's got Parramatta. There's always this thing in your head of, he's got a high break-even, but he's versing Parramatta. He's versing a good team. Do I actually want to sell him? So, put it this way, I think it'll be easier to actually sell Starling next week because you look at it and say, it's the Sharks, 50 break-even, let me just bank the cash. Because mentally it's going to be more difficult round 6, round 7, round 8 when he's got good matchups. That's what I think. Anyway, that's how I think about things. Maybe not the same for everyone else, but that's how I think about these things at least. Because I've got the Jenkins trade and Tom Turbo trade, I don't think I'd be ripping a boost to get Starling out. I think I would do it if I knew there was a target I wanted to get. And it would be at halfback, because I'd move Sanders Smith from halfback back to hooker. And then I would go and bring in a halfback. And if I was to get a halfback, it's probably going to be Nico Hines. But his run also isn't like amazing. Although he was solid with 60-something points. And I guess the sooner that you can lock in like a Nico Hines, the better. Tom Starling to Nico Hines via duels might be what I do. But I think at the moment, my initial feel is that I think it's maybe give it a week. I think with a 52 break even, there's no need to urgently sell him. Manny Nicholson was solid with 45 points, so he's set to make some money. 77k next week with a 30 break even. Again, we rattled off some of those games apart from the Sharks game coming up for the Raiders. Looking pretty good. Hopefully we just get some attacking stats from him and get some more cash gen as well. When does Edwards come back? Edwards should be due next week or the week after. So just looking at other scores, probably not much from the Raiders. Trey Mooney obviously got lower minutes, so only 26 points. So I think let's segue to that Penrith game, since Jenkins will be a talking point. Obviously, very good win for the Rabbitohs in the end, although second half, it was pretty much all Penrith. Obviously, a bit concerning for Penrith fans, I guess, that they've conceded so many points in the last kind of 3 rounds. But look, champion team, I'm sure they'll get back to their best. Jack Cole with the late try bumped him up to 105. Liam Martin also scored a try, 76. Lindsay Smith, I mean, I don't know how many it's the year of the front rowers. We've got Adam Blake, Payne Haas, Terrell May, Corey Horsburgh, Tina Fazul-Ma'awi. Lindsay Smith has actually been rock solid. 71 points, played pretty good minutes, I'm pretty sure, again, last week, I should say, on Thursday. So Lindsay Smith played 59 minutes, very, very solid for 71 points. It's just unfortunate that he's in a front row only, and his price is a little bit awkward, but otherwise I think most years we'd be looking at him thinking, this guy's awesome, but I think our front rows are probably already stacked. I think he's just going to be one of those guys you just say, well, sorry, can't fit you in. On a more broader topic of, like, I guess, strategy, I think second row feels like a bit of a struggle in terms of the guns. Like, there's no second row forward gun. Like, Angus Crichton went and got 70 this week. Ellie Katoa 77, I want to say. But apart from those two, Isaiah Yeo's been a bit down. He scored 60 points, which is solid, but not the 70s that you're probably hoping from him. I think if you've got the likes of Corey, Horsburgh, Tino, I think they're completely fine to play at your second row if you actually want to free up spots in your front row and make your front row instead be Terrell May, Payne Haas, Lindsay Smith. Then you could actually just run Tino and Corey Horsburgh in second row with like a safe off, and those guys are probably doing a solid enough job. So I don't think there's that need to rush into buying a gun second rower. You could actually accommodate Tino and Corey in there and just get in someone like a Lindsay Smith, because he's been super, super solid. I just feel like people probably aren't going to have the trades to kind of quite make that work. What to do with Hetherington? I imagine that's Kobe Hetherington. Look, I sold him this week. I'd probably say, yeah, the minutes aren't there. So if you can kind of move him on, then yeah, I'd probably suggest to move him on. So Tom Jenkins obviously will be probably the most traded in player next week. He scored 69 points, and I'm pretty sure 60 points of that was base power. So he's 22 tackles, 1 miss, 8 points in tackle busts, 14 points in offloads, and then 28 points in runs. Like, actually, you know what? His entire score was base power. So, like, that's a ridiculous output at centre. If Edwards is not back next week, Dane Laurie also is in a bit of a doubt. Brian To'o's in doubt as well. I think there's going to be enough backline players out for Penrith that Jenkins probably will get a run at least next week or the week after. I mean, he had some ridiculously low break even. So Jay Schubert had him projected for a negative 81 break even. But that was when he was on a lower score. He updated up to 69 points. 69? Sorry. I'm just an absolute baby. I can't believe I made that stupid joke. Anyway, Jenkins is going to probably have a break even of like negative 90. So I know we've already gotten so many cheapies this year, but when it's Penrith and, they're a good attacking team, Cleary will be back next week. Scored 90 points at fullback against Melbourne. I think he's also good for points and cash. So I will be trying to get him in next week. The question is just going to be, who do we sell for him, which I will have to think about a bit more in detail. But it'd be Arthur's, Toya, or Purdue for me. In my other centre slots, I've got Tui Pelotu, who I'm not going to sell probably. I've got Garrick Skelton, and I've got someone else who I can't even remember at this point. But yeah, those three were the ones who I'm thinking of maybe selling for the time being for Jenkins. But I do think Jenkins is going to be a great trade-in option next week. Not much more from the Panther side of things. To'o 66, but off with that injury. Zayo Sol with 60. Scott Sorensen went out for that early HIA in the game. On the Rabbitohs side of things, so a really good performance from them. I think Mamazelis has been really good for owners. 64 points, which should have been higher. He just got that very late sin bin in that game, so that cost him 10 points. Couple of try assists, which I know people are going to be a little bit upset about try assists and things, and the scoring is very hard to be consistent, especially when people will say, well, Connor Watson had similar... he had a similar try assist taken off him last week to what Mamazelis had this week. I think it's all about, does the dummy half scoot a little bit out of dummy half? Do they create a gap? Do they pass it to the player who then is in a gap because of that pass? Like the dummy half would have had to have done something a bit extra to get credit to the try assist. They can't just purely pass it to the player and then that player does all the work and scores. They need to pass it to the player who maybe gets to a gap because of that dummy half pass. Honestly, I don't have the energy to go back and micro-analyze all of these things. Others in the community, shout out to SE Spy, who's very good at this. They can break it down for you. But the less I argue about scoring and try assists, just the easier my life is, because I don't need to get wound up about something I have no control over, put it that way. But yeah, otherwise from the Rabbitohs, Mamazelis has been good. Latrell should be back next week, and that's going to be a massive in for the Rabbitohs. So big watch on, I guess, all of their backline players, because they all could have better fortunes. So like an Isaiah Tass, for example, only the 30 points. He's 336k. He had a break even of 48. So he's going to be at a pretty good price if people wanted to jump on him as a bit of a pod. But I think you can kind of wait and see how it goes with Latrell back. I'm sure Latrell will be a good option just because draw doesn't really matter so much for Latrell. He's just a big game player. Because the draw isn't great. Like you're looking at Roosters at home. Cowboys is good. Bulldogs tough. Melbourne tough. And then it's Newcastle, Broncos, Tigers before the bye in round 12. So it's a bit of an up and down draw, but Latrell, I think, is... With Latrell, if he is named next week, I'd probably just give him that game against the Roosters. If he looks good, maybe I bring him in for round 6 against the Cowboys. So this is why I think I might not decide my fullback replacement for Turbo next week, but probably do it the week after. Or I go get Pappenhausen, potentially. There's a couple of guys saying there's some trolls in the league chat. Yeah, I've noticed this before. It's really hard to police because it's hard to kick them out of the league and stuff as well. And I even reached out to the SuperCoach guys saying like, oh, is there a way to actually block them from the chat and stuff? And they weren't able to give me a conclusive answer. So yeah, but I'll check that out again for sure. Thanks for raising that into my attention. Mitchell Abai, so we kind of answered that question a bit from Schlumbers. I think if you want to take that the pod move, which is probably to get him a week earlier, sure thing. Latrell is going to be a good prospect, but he's coming from a hamstring. I kind of just want to see him play 1 week before I decide to jump in, but I think Latrell will be fine. He looked so fit in preseason. He's still looking fit as well. I'm sure he'll be good for SuperCoach when he's back. That's probably it on this particular game that I wanted to mention. We've still got the Roosters, Dolphins, Dragons games, and Sharks to go through, so let's try to go through that a little bit faster. How are you, Aman? Yeah, Aman's here. I'm looking real good. Thank you for that. Yeah, you know what? I'm not actually as happy with the hair today. It's got this weird bump in the middle. Anyway, you guys don't care. Well, you guys do care about that, but I shouldn't be talking about my hair so much. Next game, let's talk quickly about the Dragon Storm. I think that's going to be quite relevant. So obviously a bit of a lower scoring game, only 14 points to 8, but Dragons getting the win. In the end, 77 points for Katoa. Harry Grant actually updated well from 49 to 70. He was credited with a extra line break assist because if you remember, Pappenhausen got given a line break early in the game, but actually that was given to Munster, and then therefore Harry Grant got the line break assist to Munster. So that's why Munster's score went up to 57, and Harry Grant went up. I don't know what else he got credited with. Maybe a couple of extra tackles or maybe some offloads as well. But a good score from Grant. Obviously, a lot of people were a bit concerned about him coming into this week, given that he'd been pretty poor from a Supercoach side of things coming into this week. Look, he's still probably going to drop a decent amount of cash. He'll drop down to 67k with 121 break even. Again, Tom Starling people, you might want to give it a week. You could maybe just go Tom Starling up to Harry Grant as well, and in maybe a week or two. That's also an option for you. Get Harry Grant, and then you can kind of just hopefully lock in your hooker for the rest of the season. Munster solid with 57. Pappenhausen, a few attacking stats in there for 65. Scored a try and got the one line break, but otherwise a solid outing for him. If he does get the goal kicking back next week, I think if you're looking at buying a fullback in next week, Pappy's probably the one I'd be looking at. It's still maybe Pappy or Gutherson, because Gutherson has Parramatta. But assuming you got one of the two this week, you can just go and get the other one next week. So Storm have got Manly away, but not great, but it is a game without Turbo, most likely. Then it's the Warriors at home, Dolphins at Suncorp, which is really good. Rabbitohs at home, Canberra and Suncorp, and then Tigers. So it's a pretty good run up until round 10, and then Sharks in round 11. And we know the Storm are a good attacking outfit as well. So I think Pappy is still a very good buy coming into this week. Shouldn't have that big of a cash... he's not going to be at a really unattainable price. He'll be about 670k, most likely. So I think Turbo to Pappy this week is completely fine. Frees up a bit of money as well. Or you can wait a week and maybe go back to a Ponga, or maybe go to a Latrell. What my early thoughts... I'll get to my team actually at the end, but I've got some thoughts about what I'll do with my team. Munster solid with 57. I think with Munster, I think he's been good without being amazing. So I think if you are shopping for a 5'8", Campbell is probably where I'd lean now. I think I'd just take the guy who's got the goal kicking and probably got more of an upside than I think Munster has. I'm happy enough with Munster. He's been solid, but I think Campbell is where I'd be leaning. Not many other big scores from the Storm, given that obviously it was a very wet game, not many points in it. For the Dragons, obviously the big targets coming into this week were Tui Pelotu and Gutherson. No attacking stats for Tui Pelotu, so just the 32 points. It's going to stagnate his cash a little bit, but look, they've got Parramatta and the Titans. I'll at least give them those two games, and then we'll reassess from there. Tui Pelotu is probably going to make about 70k, and Gutherson about 78k. So they're going to make a little bit of money for us this week as well, but I'm not going to be selling them before the next 2 weeks are over. Honestly, apart from that, there was an injury to Hamish Stewart, facial injury. Toby Cashman was benched in this game, but still okay with 46. Val Holmes was decent, scored a try with a line break and a goal kick, but honestly, not many big scores from this game for us to kind of pay too much attention to. But yeah, Gutherson got his try assist back. Hallelujah. Thank the Supercoach gods for getting to their senses. Dolphins and Broncos. Let's get on to this game very quickly. Can't believe I didn't speak about him earlier already, but all hail Shibasaki. Wouldn't have thought I would have been saying that in the preseason, but game at Shibasaki, 116 points, and he's looking so good. He's going to make us a good amount of money, so thank you, Shibasaki. Projected price change of 91k with a negative 48 break even. That is music to my ears. He's already made 85k. He's going to be the center who's going to make that 200, 250k. Fingers crossed. But yeah, very happy with him. Still good matchups. They've got the Tigers at home and then the Roosters at home. Both teams can leak points at times. Then it's the Warriors away before Bulldogs in round 8. So I'll reassess in round 8. But similar with those who may be looking at selling Jesse Arthurs, the next 3 games are good. Jesse Arthurs has got a projected break even of 64, which he can easily get. The first 2 rounds he went over 90. I think with Arthurs, you free the most money going him down to Jenkins, if that's the trade you're looking at. But I think there is still upside in that player that I'm not sure if I'll be urgently selling Arthurs, but yeah, look, I don't hate it, to be honest. Yeah, guys, I see a couple of you are talking about the league chat. Don't worry, I can't do anything about it right now. I don't want to put it up on screen just in case there's any comments in there that I shouldn't be showing. I'll look at it later and I'll deal with it. But no, thank you for raising it to my attention. I acknowledge it. We'll sort it out afterwards. But yes, Jesse Arthurs I think will be a big talking point coming into this week. 37 is actually more than what I expect from Jesse Arthurs when he doesn't get any attacking stats. What did he? 37 points and no attacking stats, all base power. So it's actually not a terrible score from Arthur's. So, I mean, obviously I don't want 37 every week. I'd rather get 60s and 70s. I think I'll give him at least one more week, but don't hold me to that. He still could be the one who I sell for Jenkins, because he's going to go up about 35k. So he'll be priced at about 500k. You'd free up 300k going Arthur's down to Jenkins, which is, considerable amount of money. So I'll reassess about the one centre I want to sell for Jenkins coming into next week. Bit of a down week for Adam Reynolds. If anyone did decide to do that Cleary to Reynolds, I didn't love that trade, and he's kind of reverted back, not to tight, but no attack stats apart from some goal kicks. So only the 24 points. Kobe Hetherington, very disappointing, 22 points. I think he is probably someone who you can just move on. He had a break-even of 36, so he'll go a little bit down in price. But his minutes are just not what we were hoping for in the preseason. Looking at 25 minutes in this game, I think with Payne Haas playing 67 minutes, Carrigan 56, Gazewski actually played pretty considerable minutes in this game. He played 72, so he ended up scoring okay with 59 points as well, which is actually, with a try assist. So I know some people were selling Gazewski to Nicholson this week. If you did hold Gazewski, you're probably going to be able to hold him for another week, just because his break-even is probably going to get down to a fairly low number. Yeah, Jay Schubert's got him projected for a break-even of 5. So I think he's just delaying the inevitable, but you'll take that in a week where you don't have to sell him urgently, I guess. Reece Walsh, a bit quiet as well, only the 56 points. Did get a try assist, but yeah, I think he's just not quite hitting the big scores that you would have hoped for. So he's going to go down about 70k and have a 73 break-even. Look, I mean, the next 3 games are good. You could maybe still consider him as a trade-in, as a bit of a pod, but I think I prefer Pappy, I prefer Latrell, I prefer Ponga, I prefer Gutherson. I think that I prefer Teddy, who we haven't spoken about yet as well. So I think there's too many other fullbacks who I'd be wanting to have over Reece Walsh at this point in time. For the Dolphins, honestly, not too much again to speak of. I think Max Plath scored a try, so he was okay with 76. Herbie Farnworth could be a gun centre people might want to consider if they've got plenty of cash floating around now with Turbo being out and maybe downgrading to someone else. So he scored 69 points, pretty much all in base power. So very similar to what Jenkins scored himself this week. I mean, 38 points in runs. I mean, he was desperate for a try in this game. But we know that Farnworth is one of the higher base power centres and overall players in this game, so he's generally a pretty safe scorer. Dolphins don't have a fantastic draw, I think, coming up. They've got the Titans round 5, then it's Panthers round 6, then Melbourne, Canberra, then Roosters. Not a great run, but I guess with someone like a Herbie, you buy him and then you just set and forget him. He's a pommy, so doesn't play Origin, so you can kind of just have him for that whole Origin period. If you're buying Farnworth, you're pretty much just kind of committing to him. And look, it's the Titans in Cbus Stadium in this coming week. We know that there can be points scored there. So Farnworth, I think, I'm completely fine with people wanting to buy him. He's a bit expensive. He's 712k, and he'll only go down about maybe. Jay Schubert has him going down about 16k, so not too much in price. Sub 700k is probably maybe the cheapest you might get Farnworth. So don't hate him as a bit of a trade him. Thanks for that fishing battle. Arthur's had like 27 before the update. Yeah, he had a bit of an upgrade post updates. Reynolds has never been SE relevant for years, says that fat guy. Yeah, generally hasn't been. So, don't love him in terms of scoring. Yeah, someone's saying Drinky is a bit of a pod option at fullback. Draw's not great, and they do have the bye coming up soon. So I think Drinkwater, again, I'd probably rank below a bunch of those other fullbacks who I mentioned earlier. Hamaso is such a nothing player if he's not doing anything flashy. Yeah, 41 points, like not much doing for him in this game. Honestly, apart from Farnworth, I'm not really considering that many other Dolphins players. I think if you have like a Gilbert or a Plath, you can kind of just hold them. They're just doing a job. Farnworth is a good gun center wing to target, very safe base stats. I mean, apart from that, there's not really much more I think to talk about from the Finns. So, I think Herbie's probably the one who I'd be targeting from that team. Otherwise, not overly considering, I think, many of their players. I mean, Dan Sfidi, 65 points. No attacking stats in there, but we just spoke about how stacked front row is before. I don't know if we can fit in Dan Safidi in there as well. Let's get on to the Roosters Titans, and then we'll finish on the Sharks Bulldogs, which is obviously a very big game. So yeah, from the Roosters side of things, obviously disappointing as a Roosters fan. I'm sure many of you don't care, and you're probably very happy that you saw the Roosters lose, but I'm a fan, so not great. But look, Titans probably deserve to win that game. Tino work rate was actually a little bit down, 77 points, which included a line break try. So his base stats weren't as big in this game. He had 7 missed tackles, which is very un-Tino-like. I normally don't see that kind of tackle inefficiency from him. But yeah, so 21 net in tackles, 27 in runs, so we're looking at 48 there, plus a 4 points. So 51 base power, I mean, solid. But normally Tino is someone who pushes into the 60 range. But look, he's got the attacking upside in him. He can get those attacking stats. So very happy with Tino sitting there in my team. As I am Nafahu White, I mean, he has turned out to be so much better of a pick than I would have considered. I mean, he's probably been fortunate with that Collins was out, Spencer Leniu was out, so he's gotten more minutes in the middle. But the thing is, he's also just taken like full advantage of them. Like I'm very happy with him as a early season pick. He's going to make considerable money. He got a line break assist in this game, but again, you take that out, you're still looking at 69 points in just pure work rate. So he played in this game, just having a quick look, he played 50 minutes. So a bit down on last week, but 69 points base stats and power stats in 50 minutes is very, very impressive. And also with Victor Radley looking like he might be out next week as well with another concussion, Nafahu White's probably still going to get good minutes. He's 425k. Jay Schubert has him down for a -7 break even and making 70k. So he's going to make close to 150, 160k. So he's been an awesome pick to start off the year. And I'll be very happy to play him again next week against the Rabbitohs. Zach Docker-Clay with a very big game, 71 points, 52 points in tackles, but Connor Watson will be back next week, so not really an option there. I know a couple of people went Teddy as a bit of a pod. Shout out to the Whisperer. I'm pretty sure he went and bought Teddy this week as a bit of a point of difference. Look, 83 points, a 94 break even. He'll go down a little bit in price. Jay Schubert's got him for 130 break even coming up against the Rabbitohs, so it might not be quite the time yet for Teddy, but look, he's rock solid. 43, 119, 58, and then the 83. He's probably slowly warming up into his business. And then the draw is not bad as well after round 8 with Dragons, Dolphins. Actually, you know what? It's not an amazing draw, but Teddy's Teddy. I guess with Teddy, Roosters play every major bye round this year, so he's probably going to be the most owned fullback come the origin period if we assume that Dylan Edwards is going to be there for New South Wales. So again, Teddy, I think, is still a good pickup for those selling Turbo, but I'm still, I think, choosing Gutherson, Pappy, Ponga. Those 3 at least, I think I'm choosing before Teddy. Teddy Latrell depends on how Latrell comes back from his injury, but yeah, I think Teddy at the moment probably still wouldn't quite be there, just because I think the price and value maybe isn't quite there. Can you please open the league chat and address the trolls? There is no swearing, don't worry, but Brad is spamming something. Don't worry, as I said, I will address the league chat after. I just want to get through the stream. We've already been an hour as well. Can I moderate the league chat on stream? Nothing, just don't worry. Aman's wife, thank you for... someone's made a username of Aman's wife. You guys are just the best, aren't you? I can tell you that's not my wife because there is no way she'd be watching my stream. I'll tell you one thing, she does not care a lick about footy or rugby league. So there is no way she'd be watching me talk about fantasy NRL. So, yeah, I can tell you that's not my wife. And she's saying, well, this username is saying, hey, man, dinner is ready. Come downstairs. Mate, I've already had dinner. So I can tell you're full of fudge. So it's not you. But thank you for making that very special username. Obviously, you're a very special person to me, Aman's wife. So yeah, thank you for joining us in the chat. Flarbet says, hey, Aman. Does anyone have the link for seeing projected player prices? I sent it in the chat earlier, but I'll link it again on Twitter. This is Jay Schubert, and he's got the projected break-evens and price changes. Angus Crichton, 78 points. Actually, he updated from 70 points to 78. So he had one line break, but otherwise 68 points base power, very solid. I don't know what he's going down about 20k with a 86 break even. So look, he's going to be sub 700k next week, thereabouts. I don't mind people just going and buying Angus, to be honest. Like, we know that he's from last year, like a genuine second or forward gun with big upside. Hasn't quite seen it yet because obviously Roosters' attack's not been as fluent as it was last year. And Luke Keary was very big for Angus Crichton. But Sanders Smith was actually pretty decent in this game, I thought. He ended up on 57, so I played him. Very happy with that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Billy Smith, because I know there's some talk that he was potentially coming back this week, but they put him on ice again. If he comes back, it'd be... I don't know who he drops out of Nwangati Sawasi or Robert Toya. I think Marky Mark has been looking too good to be dropped. So I think it's probably going to be Toya who drops out. Toya, 45 points base power, very solid. He's projected to make 19k with 26 break even. So again, he's not looking quite like the massive money maker that we would have hoped for. He's been solid without being amazing. I don't mind people selling him for Jenkins next week. Him or Purdue or Arthurs, I think, will be one of the three. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'll give it some thoughts before I confirm what I think on Tuesday's stream. Aman's wife, love your work. Tom Huggett says, sounds like my missus doesn't give a rat about my Supercoach. Not my wife anymore. Look, as I say, we're a married couple now, but I said, look, you have your hobbies. I have my hobbies. One of my hobbies is to talk about Supercoach on YouTube. Whether or not you think that's ridiculous or not, I enjoy it. And she's like, yep, I know you enjoy it, so you go and do it. So she's like, that's completely fine. Same way as I think that Maths is a ridiculous show that she shouldn't be watching. But look, she wants to watch Maths. I said, you go and watch Maths. All I'll say, don't force me to watch Maths. That's the only thing I tell her. Just like I'm not going to force her to watch footy. If she doesn't want to watch footy, that's fine. I'll watch it on my own. I don't care. 1160 from Greybox. That's definitely a good score for this week. I think that's above par. I think you've done well with that. That's kind of round out my thoughts on the Roosters. On the Titans, I've already made my feelings clear about Jaden Campbell. I think he's probably the best 5'8" that you can go for. If you're selling Metcalf, I think he's the one who I'd be prioritizing. Fafita, 65 points. I don't think he had any big attacking stats. He had one try assist. He's still not playing 80 minutes. He's playing 56 minutes last week. So I don't know if I can still go buy Fafita. But, 65 points is solid, but I feel like I need 80-minute Fafita before I can go and invest in him. Verrills and Sammy with good scores. Brimson scored a double for 63. I know a lot of people were selling him this week. Look, scoring a double for only that many points is not amazing. Not many other real base stats to talk of, but I guess that's kind of who he is. If you haven't sold him, then I think you could keep, because the draw looks pretty good for Titans. So we're looking at Dolphins, Dragons, Raiders, Cowboys, Bulldogs, Knights, before Raiders again. So apart from that Bulldogs matchup, there's not really many, and maybe even Raiders, but that Raiders game's at home. I think there's not really many bad matchups for the Titans coming up. This is why Campbell is going to be such a popular trade-in, I think, next week. Beau Fermor also very solid with 50. No major attacking stats in this particular game. I think that's really it from that. I think Jalen de Groot, 21 points, so I think no need to rush into bringing him. I think Jenkins will be the cheapy cash cow center to get next week. Final game to touch on will be the Sharks and the Bulldogs. As you can see, I don't know anyone in this game, so I was kind of just watching it enjoyably as a neutral. I want to apologize to anyone this week who I said sell Jacob Preston, because I think that's probably one of the worst feelings in Supercoach, is selling the player, especially like a gun player who you had faith in to start the year. They did okay, weren't amazing. You thought there were, sexier options, the grass is greener, and then they just go ham and show their vengeance for you selling them. 122 points for Preston. He looked really good. It would have been nice to know about this positional switch before the week, because he was actually playing on the left, and I think that seems to be definitely where the Bulldogs' attack is more favoured. Bailey Hayward's got a pretty good presence there. They've got Bronson Cherry there. Preston playing on the left was very good. So, yeah, big score from Preston. We know he had these games in him. I guess there weren't that many signs of it, except came this week, and in a tough game as well. Try assist for 122 points. Bronson has also had a couple of good games back-to-back now. 99 points he scored this week. That did include a double. So obviously the attacking stats kind of inflating that just a little bit. bit of an awkward price at 516k. So I'm not sure how many people would be considering him. The Bulldogs also do have a bye, I think, coming up very soon. Round 6. So they play the Knights this week and then they have a bye. So probably a bit difficult to buy Bulldogs players. I think like Bailey Hayward, for example, he's probably going to get dual second row forward 5'8", but as soon as Matt Burton comes back in, he's not going to be relevant anymore. So it's really Preston, I think, is the one, and maybe Matt Burton when he comes back, which is strange because the Bulldogs 4-0, I think they're topping the table, but apart from Preston, they don't actually have that many Supercoach options. They kind of share all the points. For the Sharks, Cam McInnes is very solid with 82 points. I just want to quickly see how many minutes he played before the 82 because, I mean, McInnes is always a very good base at heavy player. If he gets good minutes, then generally he is always hinting at being an option. Yeah, 75 minutes for McInnes. That's definitely up on other weeks. Did I just fart? No, I definitely didn't fart. You might have heard some other sound, but I can assure you I did not fart. But sounds like you're letting one rip. Oh my God. I don't know what's happening with the audio, but I can assure you guys, I did not let one rip. My wife watches maths while I watch Aman's hair. Crazy praying mantis, you're my kind of guy. There are some glitchy, fuzzy noises. There ain't no farting. Yeah, apologies, guys. It might be the audio was a little bit wacky earlier in the stream. I'll try to clean it up for next time. Someone was asking earlier, is Adam Fanua-Blake an option? He's always an option. He's still expensive, though, at 688k. I'm just not really targeting him, I guess, at the moment. I've got good front row forwards at the moment. He's just not someone I need to massively prioritize. Maybe as we get closer to Origin, I think I might reassess that at that point. Kale Iro, he actually picked up a hamstring injury in this game. A lot of people were thinking about him as a good pod. He did score a try for 61 points, but then it looks like he might be out for 2 to 4 weeks. That's unfortunately a bit of a blow for anyone who's gone with Kale Iro. Nico Hines, solid with 60. He had the try assist for Kale Iro, but apart from that, nothing really to speak of for Nico, just a bunch of tackles, a couple of line break assists in there, not many runs. I think with Nico, he will still be the gun halfback I want to pair with Cleary. I think I might just delay it a little bit though. So I might just get him around 7 when he has the Knights. He goes Knights, Tigers, Parramatta, Manly, Melbourne, Roosters. I think it's really that run of 7 to 9, which is probably when I want him. But honestly, I think if you just want to get Nico just to lock in your halfbacks, I think there's nothing wrong with that as well. Like you can do that Tom Starling to Nico Hines move. Thinking about it, I'd probably do that maybe before I did the Harry Grant one. Just because, with Nico, he's not going to play Origin most likely. So you can have him during that period. With Harry Grant, he's playing Origin and going to miss games. So if I was going Starling to one of those two, probably Nico Hines. And when I say Nico Hines, it's via duels, switching Sanders Smith back up to hooker. Okay. I seriously heard a fart sound. Am I hearing anything? Guys, I can tell you, my bowels are good. I'm not feeling bloated or gassy at all. I'm not ripping. I'm not ripping farts here. Honestly, not many other big scores from this game. So I think we might just kind of wrap it up. We're already going for an hour, 10 minutes. I'll quickly chat with what I'm thinking for doing for my team next week, and then we'll touch on some final questions. So, look, one of Arthur's, Toya, or Purdue will go for Jenkins for me. And then I might go Turbo to Pappy because I already have 300k in the bank because of the trades I did this week. So what I might do is Turbo to Pappy probably will free 130k. If I did Toya to Jenkins, that frees another 100k. I'm going to have like 530k in the bank. But the reason I want that is that it means I can wait a week, look at the other fullbacks, and then in round 6, I can go Iongi up to one of Latrell or Teddy or Ponga. Just give myself that week to reassess. It could also be the money I want to go get maybe Jaden Campbell. I've already got Munster. I could go Turbo to Campbell as well if I don't want to get Pappenhausen. But if Pappenhausen's goal kicking, Storm Run is pretty good. Alright, it seems as though you guys are hearing a lot of this. There must be something happening with the microphone. No idea what's going on here. Anyway, I can't wait to hear back the audio and see what's happening. But yeah, anyway, anyone listening back on audio, my bowels are completely healthy. Don't worry. Any fart sounds, flatulence sounds that you're hearing, it's all from the microphone. not myself. Someone's asking, would I go Metcalf or Dewey to Campbell? I think I'd go Dewey to Campbell. I think Metcalf still probably has more upside, and draws pretty good from round, I think it was round 6 or round 7 onwards. Actually, instead of guessing, how about I find out? Yeah, so after round 6, so round 7's Broncos, Knights, Cowboys, Dragons, Dolphins. That's actually a pretty good run. So I think you'd probably want to keep Metcalf for that period if you could have him or Dewey. So I think I'd go Adam Dewey. Guzman and Gomez, Snyderman. Nah, I didn't have that. I had a pasta bake actually for dinner. I had a pasta bake, which is very delicious. I had a pasta bake and I made a dessert of, well, I say I made. Me and my missus, we made an apple crumble with some Haagen-Dazs vanilla ice cream. I was eating good tonight. It was very nice. Now, we both cook. She doesn't do all the cooking. We split the cooking duties. If you have to axe Kobe Hetherington, who would you go to? I'll have the cash, can take a pick of second row forward or front row. If you could take any second rower or any front rower, I'm going to assume you already own Payne Haas, Terrell May, and Corey Horsburgh and Tino. If you haven't got one of those four, I think I'd actually almost lean just getting Fanua Blake instead of a second row forward. I feel way more comfortable with Fanua Blake. So, yeah, I think I'd go AFB. I think you can just kind of lock him in. As I said before, you can just have Corey Horsburgh or Tino sitting in your second row forward, and it's no problem. At the moment, I've got Tino and Nafahu White in second row. I can easily switch Corey Horsburgh down to second row as well via Nafahu White. So yeah, I think AFB is actually who I'd be leaning. Yeah, apologies guys for any audio issues. I'll try to look at that, and yeah, guys saying earlier, I'll look at the league chat as well. Don't you worry. Top 200 scored 1,117. Impulsive trade from Ponga to Turbo last minute, and captained Red Arrows incoming. Yeah, that's a bit rough, especially if you did it last minute. But yeah, I mean, we didn't go through it before about captaincy stats, but if you're feeling a little bit annoyed about the Turbo captaincy, look, I'll pull the stats up. Oh, sorry. 1 second. So that you can see this from SuperCoach Plus. So if you look at coaches in the top 5%, Turbo was the most popular captain. He was 49%. So half of the top ranked coaches captained him. And then Payne Haas was 16%. Garrick was 16%. These guys didn't go huge. So I think, yes, there was a bit of a swing, but it wasn't like Payne Haas or Garrick went 150 like they did last week. So I think obviously not great that Turbo got that low score, but look, it could have been worse. I think it could have been worse. But yeah, obviously not fantastic at all. 12-14, playing Dewey, definitely sell time. Yeah, I think if you wanted to move Dewey to Campbell, I think that's a move I'd be on board with. Alright guys, I think that's probably it for the stream. We've kind of gone through all the games, some initial thoughts as well. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. And again, apologies for any audio issues throughout this one. We'll try to clean that up for next time. And yeah, apologies for any flatulence noises that you guys heard. I will definitely have a look back and see if you can where those occurred and fix it for next time. I reckon it's something with the microphone. I do actually have a pop filter. I might try that next time. Maybe that gets rid of the fuzz. I just didn't have time to set it up today, but maybe I'll use the pop filter. That might maybe help things out. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please do give the stream a like if you did enjoy it on the way out, and do subscribe as well if you are new around here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope you all had a good Sunday evening. Monday blues tomorrow, but it's okay. Back to work, but it's all right. It means there's lockout happening tomorrow, and we can start rage trading. Thanks all for tuning in, and see you on Tuesday for the round 5 preview stream. Catch you then.